Hello and welcome to the Series 10 panel discussion on Thin Ice, and with me today I have Jacob Licklider and Mary Sharp. Unfortunately there's no third guest, as the third person hasn't contacted me when I asked them are they still ready for today. So, hello.
Hello, we're glad to be here, Dylan.
Hello, Dylan. Good to be here.
The most natural of conversations.
Well, that was just the banter is clearly flowing today.
Yes.
Right, okay. So, Thin Ice, I think we'll get right into it. And the Doctor and Bill, because they're kind of the centrepiece of this episode, as they have been the last two episodes. What do you think of them here?
I mean, I've really liked it. I've liked that we're focusing on the Doctor and Bill sort of as a relationship, because with the 45-minute time slot, that really helps improve almost all the episodes. Just because, and I've noticed Peter Capaldi and Pearl Mackie have this amazing chemistry, where they just give each other a look and it just snap and they're right into it.
Yeah, I agree. Go on, Mary.
I think the same thing, too, because something we really didn't see with the last companion was the fact that, the relationship matured. It was just all of a sudden, like Clara Who and, she's starting to take over versus being the traditional role of the companion.
I can see that. It also helps that Clara didn't have a character. It was just, I'm an enigma. Whereas Bill's like, oh, I'm a human being.
Yeah, that's very
totally
true.
Agree with that.
Yeah, Bill is very much more of a normal human, which we've really been lacking in the past few companions, and especially Clara, and it's got really, really annoying, to be honest. And, I like how we're getting some focus on them, because I'm actually invested in these characters, and Capaldi's actually good this season, unlike Series 9, in my opinion. But the only issue is we haven't actually had any focus on any proper plots or stories, which I feel has been a bit of an issue, and again is a victim of 45-minute syndrome. Had all these stories been longer, they could have developed their plot and their supporting characters fully, as well as developing the Doctor and Bill's relationship fully.
Yeah, I think totally agree with that. Sorry.
No, you go ahead, Mary.
Please go. I totally agree with that, because the last two episodes, it feels like they were focusing more on character development in their relationship, and like the monster of the week was just, it was all wrapped up in like the last 5 minutes, because they're like, oh, we're stuck in the 45 minutes and, resolution. That's it.
I'd have to agree with that. I think Thin Ice actually suffers the least from 45-minute syndrome, other than, of course, the supporting cast is pretty dull.
Well, you say that, Jacob, but the supporting cast is so ridiculously undeveloped. I don't think I've seen a set of characters in the story this undeveloped for a very long time.
Did you not watch Hellbent?
Well, yeah, but most of those were already previously developed characters, so it didn't really matter as much.
Whatever you say.
Well,
I don't remember any of the characters in Hellbent.
I mean,
or
absolutely
the Return of Dr. Mysterio.
I absolutely hated the Return of Dr. Mysterio, and I think the characters were awful and I despise them, but from an objective point of view, they were more developed. At least the two main supporting characters, they were more developed than the ones here. Basically, the villain is, he has one attribute, he's a bit racist, and he will do anything for the sake of progress in the British Empire. And then the children, it's like, we're poor children, and we're a bit zany. And that's it. That's all they have to them.
Yeah, I mean, decent child actors, though, which take
surprising,
what you can get.
Yeah. Little black girl, I've forgotten the character's name, but she was quite good. I was very surprised to see that.
We've come a long way since In the Forest of the Night, where it was Miss Wavy Hands.
True.
That was Peppa Pig,
But her name was Maeve, at least I remembered that.
No, but I mean, literally, that character, that actress, she's Peppa Pig.
True. Well, you know what really got me with the whole character thing, when the Doctor asked, how long they've had the monster under the water, and, it's just kind of thrown away since ever, and that was a good enough answer for the Doctor.
Yeah, it could
have... Unlike in the Star Whale.
You think somebody would have noticed that, because I'm sure at some point people have went fishing on the Thames.
Well, that's my third question. Is why the Doctor has been to the Frost Fair, River Song said it in Name of the Doctor that he took her there. So why didn't he even freaking notice it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
and
he was there before in Frostfire, which
yeah,
is
he was
the
in there
Hartnell
with
one.
Vicky and Steven. And you'd think if anyone would notice an anachronism, it would be Vicky and Steven.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I
also,
mean,
you've got to
they
remember
probably
there's been,
just nailing each other with River.
no, but there's been previous Frost Fairs as well. How come no humans have noticed this?
True. Well, no, in Name of the Doctor was the last Great Frost Fair, which is what this is.
Yes, the
Yeah, no, but there were
last
other-
Frost Fair, but there were other Frost Fairs before this, is what I'm saying. How
Where
come
this-
nobody
where
noticed
this-
that there was little light under the Thames and that people were getting sucked underneath it? I know it's a bit of a nitpick, but, you know, it's still relevant to how the whole story makes sense.
I can see where you're coming
True.
from, but I'd write it away as humans just being humans.
They use
And,
that
I
excuse
mean-
It's our
too
great
often.
superpower.
Now, I really hate that excuse because the thing is, humans are actually the opposite of that. We overanalyze and remember things in like minute details. Like you look on
And
the internet,
sometimes
all
we
these
and sometimes we
conspiracy
misremember a lot of things. It could be a case of just misremembering things.
theories. No, I don't buy it. I hate it. I didn't like that explanation when they tried it in Remembrance of the Daleks, and it just got even worse. Now they're doing it like nearly every episode in new.
Yeah.
I mean, it just reminds me also of Hellbent, where, you know, apparently the Time Lords did something massive to bring Gallifrey back, but the Doctor just dismisses it, like, out of hand. And I think that was the biggest frustration for me, and I'm tired of seeing that in the episodes, because it makes the fans feel like they think we're stupid.
I mean, the Doctor
Yeah,
definitely
I can
has
see that.
ego, but he doesn't like have that much ego where he just assumes that everything good is done by him.
Yeah, he's not
Space
Colin
Jesus.
Baker times 1,000.
Exactly. So anyway, I think we'll probably move on now. Well, we've kind of already covered supporting characters, so let's go on to the setting. What did you think of having the Frost Fair again? But I mean, I suppose that hasn't really been done properly on TV. But what did you think of it?
Looked beautiful.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it looked great. It felt very different than like the previous episodes where we've had in sort of 1800s London, like which I actually kind of liked.
Yes.
Like because I mean, if we just use the same sort of sets that they used in like the Snowmen and Name of the Doctor for a little bit, it probably would have felt boring. They're obviously doing something different. I also really like Bill Anderson's direction. It's not as good as the last 2 weeks, but it's still pretty solid direction.
Yeah.
Like I like the way he shoots under the ice. That looks really nice.
I've got to say that Regency London definitely looks a lot nicer than Victorian London. Like, just in general, there's a lot more interesting things going on with the costumes and the whole character of the thing. Things get a bit, stuffy and rigid in Victorian times.
Yeah.
For the most part.
I also, can the Doctor's costume in this episode just be the costume he wears for the rest of the season?
Yes.
Because I love that costume.
Oh, it's so good, isn't it?
Yeah, he did look great in it.
God, I'm really sick of these bloody hoodies and terrible jumpers. They look crap. They don't look like something the Doctor would wear, but this is exactly what the Doctor would wear, and it looks gorgeous. It really does.
It is. Yeah, I mean, it looks. They in the Magician's Apprentice they made that weird callback to Hartnell with like the check trousers. This costume is a much better callback to Hartnell.
Well, just because it
feels
doesn't
like
look
something
shit.
Hartnell would wear. Yeah.
It's a better callback to
It seems-
him actually being the Doctor, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like with all the T-shirts and stuff like that, they're trying way too hard to make him look cool.
Yeah.
It's like
And when you try to look cool, you never look cool.
The Doctor's not meant to be cool. Like, he's just meant...
Exactly.
I mean, I can't really go into what the Doctor means in such a short space of time, but he's not necessarily the coolest of cats. That's not
he's
the
definitely
I would
not
have
the
to say
character.
he's supposed to be timeless. Like, we can go back and watch the 60s episodes, and, you know, he doesn't look like a representation of the 60s.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Whereas this will look very much like a representation of the 2010s, like a lot of his costumes.
Exactly.
Whereas when he's in his velvet, that's like timeless. But when he's like in his little hoodies and his little t-shirts, like, ugh, that's so cheesy in 2010s.
even Colin Baker's outfit, minus all the colors, looks kind of timeless. Like the blue variant, at least. not the.
Well,
Sure.
JNT just had awful taste. That's nothing to do with like appealing to the times.
Yeah, it's so funny in all the commentaries I listen to, everybody hates the question marks.
But the question marks that really cancerous. It's not something that he would choose to wear. Like the question marks are there more or less as being referential to the title of the show, whereas the Doctor doesn't actually know the title of the show.
It's actually similar to
universe.
It's similar to what's going on now with the whole Doctor Who's becoming popular. We need to brand it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
JT was a bit into that, but nowhere near the extent that RTD and Moffat have been.
Yeah.
Alright, okay, so let's move on to the plot. What did you think of the plot? I know it was a bit paper thin, but there's some stuff there. And leave the metaphor bit of it until after this.
Right, if I may, it's definitely weaker than Face the Raven. It didn't have I really like the idea of the trap streets in Face the Raven, whereas this episode didn't have it. It's not a bad plot, like, definitely a creature living under the ice in the Thames is creepy, and there are definitely a couple moments with, like, the classic Hinchcliffe gothic horror, especially with, like, the kid's hand coming out of the ice. Like, that was just a really creepy image.
Well, I just feel there wasn't really enough mystery to it, is the thing. It was just like, there's a monster here. Now we're going to look at what people are dredging out of the Thames, and then, here's the villain, and the plot's over here. There just wasn't much to it. It was a lot more about building the Doctor and Bill's relationship, and I really did like, Bill's reaction at, like, the Doctor being a bit callous and stuff like that, but that's all well and good, but when there's not, like, a plot to get properly invested in, it works a little less than it could.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this would have been a great two-parter so that you get the character development, but then you can also develop the plot.
I mean, that's literally been the problem of the last 3 episodes. Like, there's 2 things you can draw from the last 3 episodes, and it's that Series 10 is definitely a lot better than what we've had in ages, but it's also a sign that we really desperately need either 60-minute episodes or serialization, because this just is not working. These are perfectly good episodes, but all of them could be improved immensely by more time to develop.
Yeah, and I feel part of me feels like this was originally at least a longer script that's been cut down. Like, there's just something about it that just gives me that feeling that there's something cut out of this one.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like some parts are really detailed. Like, right now on the TV, it's the guy that's running the dredge operation. Like, they really talked about him a lot, and I feel like I got more background on him than I did of the boss.
Yeah, the main villain, he's only introduced in, like, the last 10 minutes, and he doesn't really do anything particularly villainous other than being a bit stuck up, but most people in his position at the time probably would have been a lot like that, so...
Yeah. I mean, it's a different time.
He didn't do enough. I mean, I'm not saying that excuses what he did or anything, I'm just saying he needs to be properly villainous for us to actually hate him like the script clearly wants us to do. I just felt he was a bit of he feels like kind of the subordinate kind of person, where he's just a bit dislikable, but he's not the main villain.
And there really isn't a statement that there isn't really anything placed on that his villainy seems to be he's racist and not, he has caused deaths of people and children.
Yeah, I mean, because he did cause the deaths of children, but it didn't even focus on that. It's just... So according to the episode, racism is worse than killing children.
Children. Well, racism may hurt your feelings. Killing just kills you.
You can't get your feelings hurt then.
That's some good doublethink there, Jacob.
Yeah. Well, I did read 1984 on Animal Farm, so I know what I'm talking about.
Right, okay, so... Not much about the plot. I mean, I suppose there's not much to say, but I think before we end it...
Well, you were talking about getting forced feelings, and the Doctor punching him. Like, when was the last time the Doctor punched someone?
General, before he shot him in cold blood.
Okay, like, I've deleted that out of my head canon, so I don't even count that.
Well, yeah, the Doctor would not punch somebody. He might get angry. He might kind of, If I can imagine if Hartnell was there, he'd just get very grumpy and go, "How dare you, sir?" And, manage to, bring him round using words.
Yeah.
Oh, man, Pertwee would take his ass down, though. Sorry.
Well, no, he only takes people down when they actually try to attack something or someone.
That's
It's always in
true,
retaliation.
Yeah, because the whole point of
just-
Venusian Aikido is that it can be only used in
maybe
self-defense. That's the point of the
to
doctor.
justify the punch, they should have had him try to physically grab Bill,
Yeah,
like, and throw her out.
Yeah,
Do something
something
to
like that.
justify.
yeah, that would
Like, just go that little step further.
Because the
it's
whole
sort
point
of getting
of the Doctor
into-
is he's about self-defense. He's not about being the first one to go physical. Whereas in this
It's
one,
also
he
sort
does.
of getting into, like, we should punch the Nazis territory.
Exactly,
That's like
and
kind of, it's
that's,
like,
the Doctor would not advocate punching Nazis who are just speaking rather than actually doing anything.
doing anything.
I mean, he would
Well, you know what a
definitely
great
oppose
example
them,
would
but he wouldn't
be?
punch them.
Was like in, what was it, Christmas Carol, the Christmas one with Sardak, when he went to slap the boy. Like, if he would have done that to Bill, then I could see the Doctor punching him.
Exactly. But I think at this point, it's clearly somebody putting their politics in the episode.
Yeah.
And
Well, remember, the BBC has...
It could be Sarah Dollard, but I think it much more likely that Moffat has his hand in this. Like, he's put that in the script.
Well,
Especially-
with the press before released before the episodes, that's what it sort of sounds like.
Yeah, it really does. Like, because he basically, if anybody didn't know, Moffat did a press release before the episode aired that it's going to deal with themes of racism and whitewashing, and it didn't really. There was like a couple of throwaway lines, and I've done a little bit of research. It doesn't seem like that's wholly accurate, but I need to do a lot more to be able to, give a proper retaliation to what Moffat was saying with strong evidence. But yeah, just stay away from politics, please. It's the worst time compared to any other time to do it. This is the worst possible time to get into politics, considering how contentious an issue it is and just how vile it is, really. But let's not get into that.
Yeah, well, I want to say the theme of this episode seems to be confused a bit. Like, it wants. People have said the chaining the thing up and setting it free is an allegory for slavery.
That's what we're moving on to, actually. The next segment is about the slavery metaphor, which it's definitely a slavery metaphor. There's no doubt about it. It's about slavery in the British Empire being used to, fuel its expansion. Go on, Jacob.
Okay, so the slavery metaphor, it seems to be confused. Like, I don't know what it's trying to say. Like, slavery is bad, obviously, but is it saying who's trying to comment?
The point of it is that it's commenting on the ideals at the time of how you had all these British imperialists fueling the expansion of the British Empire on slavery and justifying it based on the fruits produced of that expansion.
I take that as an... No, you go ahead.
Well, when you were away, I had this wonderful theory that I presented. Now I can't remember half of it, but I thought it was really interesting how the Doctor sees slavery at this point. He saw that the value of a human life was more important than progressing a culture's future, and that was one of the biggest things, like here in America with the slave trade. That's what was keeping the South in business because that's what they had focused on. And I thought that was really interesting that the Doctor, put the sanctity of a life over the concept of get to point B, whatever the cost.
Well, it's not really interesting. The Doctor has always fought this, even back in the Hartnell days.
Yeah, the only thing that I really
true.
don't get is that people who are saying, like, it's this new brave message. I'm like, just thinking, wait,
that's exactly my problem with it. It's nothing new. This is not a special metaphor. It's perfectly functional, but it's been done to death in fiction. It's not interesting at all. We've seen it before. We've all seen it before, and we all know slavery.
Like, we've seen it in Doctor Who.
Probably. I mean, I can't think right now, but there's definitely been themes of slavery throughout Doctor Who.
Well, the last episode, Smile.
Yeah.
I mean, the new life form.
Yeah. There's been a lot of slavery allegories throughout Doctor Who and just generally throughout fiction. This exact message of British imperialism has been done many, many, many times. Nothing special at all. And it just seems a bit vapid and a bit preachy at this point. Just a bit mundane and redundant. It wasn't really needed. I mean, I understand they're trying to put some depth into the script, but if you're trying to do that, do something different.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because it feels like just in any type of fiction that's on the air right now, it feels like there's nothing original anymore. Like all the good ideas are gone and no one wants to try for new ones.
That's not true. It's just, with everything being corporatized, just people are too scared to try something new.
Yeah, it's try what we know so we can make the most money.
Exactly. There's much less and less people making things for the sake of making something. To be new and be original, be exciting. It's all about the money for the most part these days, and it really pains me. It almost feels like we're well past the golden age of television.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I mean, it was really interesting. Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. I was just about to move on, but have you got something else?
Well, it kind of, you were talking about the golden age and things like that. And the other day I was listening to Fall to Earth as I was coming into work, and the lady at the front desk, she goes, "Oh, what are you listening to?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's called Big Finish and their audio dramas." She goes, and she's like 90 years old at my work. And she goes, "Oh, I remember those on the radio. They were absolutely fantastic." And it's like, why is that considered, at least in that format, they're still exploring new ideas.
Well, it's just because it's cheap and anybody can make it. So people who are making it are doing it for the passion. It doesn't need
and they
the
have
money.
nothing to lose. So
Yeah.
They have nothing to lose, so they can experiment and go crazy.
Exactly, and Big Finish does that for the most part. A lot of experimenting. I mean, I'll be the first to admit they do go a bit safe sometimes, like with 13 bloody seasons of Jago and Lightfoot, but, I think Big Finish is certainly one that need to be respected for their experimentation and their passion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Okay, so on to the next time trailer. What did you think of that?
BBC America cut it off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw it online because they put it on YouTube afterwards. Because I noticed BBC America did cut it off, which annoyed me. But I saw it. I'm excited for David Suchet because
Same.
I
It looks
really
great.
like. Yeah, it looks, and it's a new writer, so there's a 50-50 chance it'll be good, and a 50-50 chance it'll be bad. And I like the setting of just a creepy old house.
Yeah, I mean, this is either going to be cliched as fuck, or it's going to be really interesting, is the thing, because, it's very easy to just go, haha, it's a haunted house, which I kind of got that vibe from the trailer, but then again, it could be something that's genuinely interesting and scary. It just depends how it's done.
I still want it to be the Tractators.
It's not going to be the Tractators, I'm afraid. Alright, so just to round up, your final thoughts on Thin Ice, and give it a score out of 10 if you would.
I'll have to say it's a good episode. Suffers from the 45-minute syndrome and a mixed message and some bad characters. I'd have to give it, because it is definitely, I think it's probably the highest episode of the season. I'm still going to sit with a 7 out of 10.
Mary?
Yeah, I can go with a 7 out of 10 as well. Some of the same reasons. I mean, they could have made a little bit more character, not the side characters, not Bill and the doctor. They did a great job with that. But, make those characters a little bit more relatable so that we know that, yes, I care what happens to this person. But, yeah, I think I'd have to say, I think it's one of the stronger episodes so far this season.
Yeah, it's definitely the strongest so far, but that's not to say it's great. It's just pretty mediocre, to be honest, because the Doctor and Bill are great, but it's got a limp plot, very, very limp characters, and at the end of the day, in a Doctor Who story, I want all three of those things to be very good, because, that's how you make a good story. And so that's why it's only going to get a 6.5 out of 10, despite it being quite enjoyable. It leaves a lot to be desired, and is just yet another really good example of why we need longer stories.
True.
Right, so
did anyone get the name of the fish?
No idea.
Like a species
I think they
or
give
anything?
it a name.
Basically,
just really big fish.
Anglerfish ripoff.
Okay.
That's more or less what they are, right? Goodbye.